Hey foodies, want to learn how to make a walnut cheese board like this for entertaining? Stay tuned. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be covering Clean Armor 737 knot filler and 730 grain filler. Our project piece today came courtesy of Gobi Walnut in Oregon. This discard is the perfect piece to show off how these two Clean Armor products can be used to fill knots and cracks, large and small. We're going to start off today's project by flattening this piece of walnut through my small overhead sander with some 60 grit. Once we get this flattened parallel, we're going to start moving through the different grits all the way up to 120. From there, we'll start the filling process and we'll end up with a top coat of our 716 wiping varnish to top it all off. Now that we've got this sanded all the way down and it's more or less level, I'm going to take a hammer and a just flat screwdriver, kind of chisel around the edges, get some of the loose bark off. I'm not trying to go for perfect. I'll follow it up with my little festool with some 80 grit. Again, not trying to make it perfect, just trying to make it okay. This is going to be a very large charcuterie board. Today we're going to use a couple of different techniques to fill all these cracks. We're going to be trying the 737 wood filler as is. We're going to be trying the 730 grain filler as is. And one of my new favorite options is I mix a little bit of this 730 with a little bit of 99% isopropyl alcohol to thin it out just a little bit. Again, the consistency of this is like honey. So I want it to run just a little bit faster than honey. And I can do that by adding just a little bit of isopropyl alcohol. And you can do this to your eye and how you want to use it for your application. I have very small cracks, so I want it a little bit on the runnier side. And then I just put them into these little tiny squirt bottles that I get off of Amazon with a little needle tip applicator. And it seems to work really, really well. So let me show you how I do that. And I might have an ounce in there, maybe an ounce and a half. And I'm just going to add about that much. And it readily mixes with isopropyl alcohol, as you can see here. It mixes very nicely. Now we're turning it into a nice little slurry. Don't need to mix it too much, but definitely thoroughly. All right. So there's our mixture of isopropyl alcohol and the 730. And we're just going to set this aside for right now. And let's focus on 737 to start. So typically I use a very flexible little applicator about like this. I want it flexible so I can really press and really get the filler in these little cracks here. I'm going to show you what the consistency of this looks like. 737, and it's kind of like, I would say it's like petroleum jelly. That's pretty much what the consistency of it is. And the technique here, what we're going to do is we're going to get a very small amount of this. Now, I need to warn you that this is one of the hardest products to sand off, so you want to use it sparingly. You can keep adding more if you want, but don't just leave it, just don't leave piles of it above your cracks thinking that, oh, I can just easily sand it off. It does not sand very easily. So you really want to be careful with scraping off all of your extras. That's my advice. Let's try one of these cracks right here. This looks like a good one, right on the edge. So what I do is I just kind of press and I kind of really try to work it in there. I want it to go deep in that crack. And I'd say that's good enough. Now, when I'm done, you'll notice I'm going to scrape it as best I can. And that little bit of extra goes back in the jar. I'm not going to have to sand anything off there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my UV light. And remember to keep everything away from your UV light that you don't want to cure. And this light I get off of Amazon. I don't have any affiliation with UV Beast, but they are a fantastic company. They've got great ratings. And for little spot fills like this, I can't recommend them more. They are just a fantastic company. I have all of their lights, as a matter of fact, all of their handheld lights, and I have looked at every single one of them and evaluated them, and I will be doing a little review on these guys a little bit later. But for today, we're going to be using this guy, which is going to be the V3, and you can kind of see what it looks like. It's quite bright, and I'm just going to literally place that flashlight right on there just like that. Stand back for a couple seconds, let it do its thing. You wouldn't believe it, but I'll bet you that it's already cured. It only takes seconds to cure this finish. I've done time tests on this, and I can cure this filler in as little as 3 seconds. Manufacturer recommends 2 minutes. You probably do want a little bit more than 3 seconds to cure all the way through, especially in deep voids. You're probably going to want to layer it if you're doing something really deep. But for something like this little tiny crack, it's done. It is totally cured at this point, and there's no need to cure this anymore. Any more curing that you're going to be doing here is just for your peace of mind. It's not going to really affect the performance at this point going forward. All right, this area in here has all of these cracks here, here, here. There's so many of them. I understand why they threw this piece in their scrap bin. It's pretty unusable. It's absolutely just filled with checks. So we're going to try to fill this up. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pour on just a little bit. And this is a 730. Just going to, whoa, that is way too much. We're going to end up scraping a lot of that off. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to take a little bit of that back, put it back in the jar. Save me a little bit of trouble. All right, I think that's good enough for right now. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take a little bit of this extra, put it back in the bottle. Boom. Set this in place right away so it does not slump. You don't want that going any further in. Every single one of them, they sanded perfectly flat. Every single one of them. And you can see them in here. They are really, really well done. All right, last but not least, we're going to be using our mixture of 730 and isopropyl alcohol. And I want to just kind of give you a preview of what it looks like here. I'm just going to run a little piece here, not in a crack, but just so you can kind of see. See, it does flow out a little bit. It just enough. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to put a little bit in each one of these cracks. And I really like this process just because it's more, this is like CA, basically. So I could do that, cure it, get it to stop flowing, basically, and hit it one more time and just leave that right over the top of it. I don't have to worry too much more than that. And this is probably cured in, I would say, 10 to 15 seconds. So for me, this is awesome for production work. If you're filling lots of small voids, use this method for very small cracks. This will replace your CA in a heartbeat. You cannot color this black because it won't cure because of the UV can't penetrate it, but this is done. That is rock hard already. You could sand that right away. There's absolutely no reason that you need to use CA anymore or those 2-part epoxies. This is the new way to do it. So let me just finish a couple more of these in here. And again, you can just do this. You can literally just keep working it around like this. And once they're set like that, I would have a couple of flashlights like this just sitting around, and you can just move them from spot to spot. Yes, the wood will get warm once you leave the flashlight on it like this for a little bit, but it will not catch the wood on fire or anything like that. They're just not that powerful. They're powerful, more than enough powerful to cure the finishes, but not enough to really be a danger. So if you wanted to top something like this up, just come in here, top it up. There you go. It cures perfectly crystal clear. No bubbles, nothing. It's absolutely perfect. Not really big enough to put putty in, but you need something liquid to get down in there and bond it. And 2-part epoxy just takes too long and it's too messy. This is such a more simple process. And let's go ahead and let's sand this down so you can see what it looks like now. All right, just using my 120 again. And these are all cured out. Let's see what we got. There we go, only took a couple seconds. And take a look at that. I mean, every single one of these, they are just perfect. They filled even the smallest parts of the crack. Again, because we made it a little bit more liquid. You can really see all this. All right, let's finish up the rest of this project. I'm gonna do a little sanding here and we're gonna fill some more cracks. Now that we've finished filling all of our cracks with the mixture of 730 and the isopropyl alcohol in our little squeeze bottle, we're going to go ahead and we're going to sand all of this out with some 120, and then we're going to start applying a thin layer of the 730 just by itself to fill up the rest of the grain, sand it down, and we're going to top this off with a coat of 716. Now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding a little bit of this wood 730, this grain filler. And again, a little of this goes a long way, but we're going to be doing this entire board. So I'm going to start with about a silver dollar size. You can always add more to this. And I'm just going to be using, again, my card to move it around. And we just want to get this everywhere. Now I want a natural edge on this piece. I don't want to finish any of this. So any drips that I have going down over here, I'm gonna have to take care of them. So when I'm doing this with this grain filler, I really wanna be cognizant of not getting it over the edge and getting drips. So I'm just being very careful in approaching that edge. We're going to add our final coat of 716 on this, and I've already put one coat down, and I wanted to show you guys what the very, very last coat looks like. But I'm just going to put just a little tiny bit here. Don't need a whole lot because this Clean Armor product goes a very long way, and my rag is already saturated with 716, so a little bit's going to go a very long way. So we're just going to work this in here like typically and buff it off, cure it, and we're going to be done with this project.
If you're interested in seeing more of this type of content, consider subscribing. Happy woodworking and entertaining.